Good evening. Yeah, I actually meant to do this tier list last night, and we're gonna get to the Banner Saga tier list. That is the main thing I plan to do in the stream, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what I plan to do having finished the Banner Saga now, because I really do want to put out a review of the whole series, I think. The thing that I'm struggling with right now is really getting what I feel is like a satisfactory, comprehensive analysis of the gameplay down. Because I feel like I have a very good working knowledge of the gameplay systems in the first game, and I can kind of grasp the implications and the interactions between them. And in my opinion, that's what, like the way that that game was designed, enables a very high level of determinism, as I mentioned before, right, in combat. Now, that being said, when it comes to the second game, the main way that they tried to introduce progression beyond your character's stats being maxed out was a lateral progression system that had a lot of chancy stuff, right? Critical hits, dodges, armor resist, stuff like that. And I really sung the praises endlessly of the first game for the determinism, you know? And it's kind of, I don't really know how to feel about those things that were added. Like this lateral progression system where you just are speccing into chances to do things. In my opinion, the determinism was what made the first game, gameplay-wise, so interesting. And it's still there. It's definitely still there, and I would still hold by the statement that you're never really relying on luck to get you through something. So it's still very tightly designed, deterministic gameplay for the most part. But you have all these percentage chance things built into it as well now. So I'm kind of struggling how to like actually accurately assess the gameplay of the whole series, because in my opinion the first one still holds up as a masterpiece, but going on from there the waters get a little bit muddied, I think. So I don't know. Maybe I'll write an actual script for it or an outline or something. I'm going to start working on that, I think. At least an outline, so that I can keep my thoughts like somewhat organized. I think the like half an hour-ish rant that I managed to pull off at the end of Banner Saga 1 is like, it's not bad. It's not a bad game analysis, but I'd like to have one that's a lot more focused and a lot more on point the whole time, you know? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that style of video for the whole trilogy. But since I named this Banner Saga tier list, or whatever the hell the name of the stream is, let's get to it, huh? I have a couple disclaimers to go over right at the beginning. First of all, this is not a gameplay tier list. I'm not ranking the characters based on their ability to perform well in combat. This is purely a personality and story-based tier list, which is, if you want to, regardless of what my thoughts end up being on the series as a whole, the story throughout all three games was always on point. So that holds true no matter what. But yeah, so these are going to be story rankings and personality rankings. Whether I found their personalities compelling or their storylines interesting, stuff like that. And it's mostly going to be, my opinions are going to be mostly formed from my most recent playthrough of the trilogy. So there's going to be some characters that are not included. Also, there are characters who are listed on here twice. I'm only going to do each character once because it's a story ranking, so the character doesn't become a different person, literally. So it would make sense to rank them twice. And I tried to organize them roughly in order of appearance. I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes with that, but like it's kind of accurate to that. I can't remember exactly where Fasolt came in. I think it might have been earlier, but doesn't really matter. I'm gonna take a sip of water, and then we're gonna start doing this. Okay. I'm gonna leave the music on because it's kind of nice to have in the background, and it's royalty free, so it's not like I'm gonna get in trouble or anything. Actually, wait, let me just make sure. Okay, autoplay's off. We're not gonna play the Skyrim audio and get the whole fucking my whole fucking stream taken down. Okay, so starting off things with Ubin. I believe he's the first character to appear in game. If not, too bad, because we're doing him first. Ubin actually turned out to be one of my favorite characters in the whole saga. And you kind of get a sense of the way that he is when you're inhabiting him, but you really get to know him once you start playing as the other characters, right? And one thing that keeps coming up over and over again is about Ubin is how thoughtful he is and how introspective he is. And he's lived for a very, very long time, so it kind of makes sense that in his older years he would get a bit more, like that. He would think about his actions a lot more and think about the way he relates to the world more. That doesn't always happen with older people, as we'll find out later with some other old Varl. But with Ubin, I just really think he's a pretty unique Varl, right? All the other Varl are all about war and warring and their strength and stuff like that, and Ubin is just a guy who likes to record people's personal stories. And he had such an interesting take on that when we were talking to him about that in the third game. It was like, he doesn't record stories like history. He records the things that people tell him because he finds that to be the truth. Like the things that are portrayed to the world, almost. It was really interesting. I wish we had actually gotten more time to explore that a little bit, but unfortunately we didn't. But, all that being said, Ubin goes into S tier. Because he's fucking awesome. Oh, hey, what's up, man? And he's really good in gameplay. I know I said I wasn't going to factor that in, but, the moment where he comes into the battle with the Horseborn was, like, incredible. I fucking lost my shit when that happened. I had no idea he was even going to come back. I thought he was going to die instead. Alright, moving on. We got Gunnulf. I believe I said in the stream earlier that Gunnulf is a walking S tier trope. I don't think that actually earns him S tier. We didn't really get to explore much of his personality or story beyond the first game, which is unfortunate. Maybe if I hadn't turned the Varl against me in the third game, we could have, but we did not. So, Gunnulf is a pretty simple guy, ultimately. He's a gentle giant. That's kind of the trope that I was referring to when I said he was a walking S tier trope. He loves food, as you might expect. He's really great with his sword, and he's very loyal to Ubin, to the point that he can sacrifice himself to save Ubin's treasure cart. Well, I don't think he means to sacrifice himself. He just dies if he doesn't let go of it. I don't know. I don't think he's an S tier. I think honestly he's like... I think he's B tier. I think that's fair. Not a lot of interesting stuff going on with him. His guilt over losing the cart was a little sad. It made me sad for him, but... And the little interaction he had with Rook was funny too. You want to be friends with Gunnulf, Rook? Keep food in the cart. That's what he said. Alright, the Governor of Strand. This guy pisses me off, honestly, because... why are the Varl handling his problems for him? What happened to his guards, his, like, loyal members of the village? Why are they not doing that? I understand it's, like, the tutorial, so we have to play the game in order to understand it, but, like, in universe, like, there's not... What is going on in Strand? Why doesn't he have a reliable force of people that can deal with this type of shit? I don't really remember many specific lines of dialogue that he had, because he's in the game only very briefly, but I'm gonna put him in C tier. Okay, Eirik. So, Eirik is... He gets a lot of interaction in Strand, and then he gets a little bit throughout the rest of the games, basically. So there's not really a lot to him, unfortunately. I like him. I kind of wish there was more. Like, a lot of characters get explored in depth, and he's just not one of them. He does tame the bear, though, and that's very cool. Eirik. I think he's going in C. He's pretty average. Like, I wouldn't call him bad, but there's just not a lot to him. This guy. Okay, this is the guy that Eirik was interrogating about the Skalds and all that. I'm gonna stick him in C too, honestly. I actually thought he was pretty well written for like a nothing character, but he is still a nothing character. Valgard. I think if I had taken Valgard with me at the beginning of the game, which I didn't know I could do, I would have learned a lot more about him and learned to like him a bit more. The confrontation he had with Ollie kind of came out of nowhere in the third game. Like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on with that. But I bet I would have if I had taken him along at first. He's gonna go in C2. It's actually probably gonna be hard to populate the lower levels of this tier list because all of these characters are just pretty well written in general. Okay, Wagner. I like Wagner as a foil to Hakon, kind of. Wagner is second in line for the Varl throne when we meet him, and Hakon's third in line. Hakon is kind of a bitter cynic, and like a... I guess I'll talk about them both at the same time, because he's next anyway. So yeah, Hakon is kind of a bitter cynic about the world, and like, he's third in line for the throne, but I don't think that's by choice. I'm pretty sure they just respect him, like, that much. And obviously, spoiler alert, Wagner dies like 10 minutes after you meet him, so... I don't know. I think I'm going to end up putting a lot of people in C tier. I think Wagner's a B, actually. He's a little bit more interesting than these guys. Hakon. Hakon is really interesting, especially if you make the choices that I did in the end of the second game and the third game. Because he becomes... like different. He starts being influenced by Fasolt, and Fasolt's like bigoted ideology about humans and stuff, and you see him changing, and you're like, you even have the option to ask him like, why are you acting so differently now? I didn't do that because I figured, you know, I knew why. We betrayed him, I guess, and Fasolt is a bad influence, but yeah, I don't know. I think I wish I'd gotten to play as him more. And make some decisions for him. I'm gonna put him in A tier. Hakon is an A tier character. Moger. You get a few interactions with Moger when you're playing as Hakon in the first game. And he's basically kind of like a strategic advisor, it seems like. He's a bit older than Hakon, I think. I feel like there's not a lot to him, and there's actually even less than the people I put in C tier. I'm gonna put him in D. Not very interesting. Maybe there would be more to him if I like took the time to try to find it, but I'm not sure. On this most recent playthrough, he's D tier for me. Moving on, Prince Ludin. So Ludin actually really impressed me with his character arc. There's a lot of points that he can die, but I really like the journey he goes through if you keep him alive. I've heard people say that it's like comes out of nowhere that he's suddenly an empathetic, caring person about the lower class and like the people beneath him, and he steps down as a ruler. But I just did they play the same games that I did? Because like, of course the experiences that he's had are going to shape his worldview and lead him more down that direction. Like, look at what he's been through in the past. I think the game takes place over the course of about a year, maybe faster if you're good at it. But you know. So I think I'm actually going to put Prince Ludin in S tier. He might even have the most development out of any characters save like Alette or Rook, personally. He has the most out of any character that you don't play as, I will say. Yeah. It's time for some more water. Moving along, we have Bersi. So he wasn't... Actually, okay, Bersi was really interesting to me at first because every single other Varl that we had ever met was very into being a Varl and being part of that brotherhood of giants, right? Bersi is completely different in that he is pretty much only out for himself, and that comes with kind of his nature as a mercenary, right? But, like... I don't know, he shit-talks Prince Ludin behind his back, even though he's literally directly under Ludin and serving him as a bodyguard. He pretty much tells Hakon outright that he, you know, if a better offer came along, he would accept it in a heartbeat. And then, kind of out of nowhere, in the third game, we learned that he used to work for the Valka and, like, played a big role in the trials of becoming a Valka. Which, I assume the Valka probably paid really well, and that's why he did it, right? It's not like he was bound by some sort of higher sense of altruism or anything. So yeah, I like him. I'm gonna put him in B tier, I think. Above Wagner, but below Gunnulf. moving on to Yrsa. Again, I wish I had had more interactions with her, you know? I wish there had been more time to figure out, like, what exactly she was about. I did think it was very cool that she returned with burn scars on her from the forest fire incident. That was pretty cool. I thought she would have died from that. She didn't end up dying, but that's fine. And then there's the little detail at the end. Is it the end? I think it's in Banner Saga 3, or maybe the end of Banner Saga 2. But there's that little moment where it says you notice a resemblance between Yrsa and Ludin that you hadn't before. So it's implied that she's related to Ludin. According to other people whose opinions I've read, she's around the same age as Ludin. She looks older to me, like significantly older, personally, but I guess that could just be my eyes. Overall, she gets some little zingers and interesting lines in here and there, but I don't know that there's enough of her to justify any higher than C tier, honestly. I wish the connection between her and Ludin was explored a little bit more in-game, but it isn't. Okay, moving on to Rook and Alette. I don't know. See, I was debating over this before I started streaming, and I'm not sure that it's even fair to really rank these characters because you play as them, and their entire personality is shaped by the choices that you make, and their stories as well. Maybe I should make a protagonist here. Hakon wouldn't count. And nor would Bolverk, because those, you don't play as them long enough to justify that, I feel like, but... Okay. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna skip over them for now, and I'll make that decision when I'm done with everybody else. Alright, moving on to Iver, or Ingvar, depending on which one you prefer. I'm sure he would probably prefer Iver, but... So Iver is fantastic, right? He is widely respected amongst the Varl. They love him. They wanted to make him king. They wanted to make him next in line for the throne instead of Wagner. And you don't really learn why Iver lives the way that he does until much later in the first game. You don't understand why he lives with humans in the village of Skogar, and why he seems a bit standoffish with other Varl. Like, it doesn't really... There's no real reason presented for that. You don't get it until you find out that the Varl, the thing they laud him for, the thing they adore Iver for doing, is slaughtering a mother nursing her baby, and the baby as well. You can dress it up however you want. You can say they're Dredge, say they're dangerous, but that is what he did, is it not? And he's ashamed. He's deeply ashamed. He went to Skogar to hide from his shame, essentially. And the shame ran so deep for him that when he went to confront Belware on the bridge at Einertoft, he was going there to die. He wanted Belware to kill him. And the revelation that he asked to go with Eyvind and Juno, you know, I don't know that we ever fully grasped his motivation for doing so, but to me it's like he is interminably bound by his desire to set things right. Like anything, not just the things that he's personally responsible for doing wrong, but just in general. And if he could save the world, perhaps there's redemption for him in that. Iver's S tier. I'll figure out the exact order of these tiers maybe later. Okay, the village chieftain of Skogar. So I really like this guy, for nothing about his personality. I like him because he's like a, he's like the inverse of what nameless characters typically are, because this man does not have a name. He is Oddleif's husband. And it's just so funny to me, because normally that would be the other way around, right? Like, this guy's name would be like Helfi or something, and this is Helfi's wife. That's just kind of funny to me. But he dies like 5 minutes into the Rook story, so I don't know. I think it's actually really interesting the type of person that he is, because the way that the game describes him is like he married Oddleif, and she turned out to be a lot better of a chieftain than he was. So even though he's the chieftain in name, like, it turns out to be Oddleif that makes a lot of the decisions and like runs things mostly. So he's like, it's interesting. I think it's kind of funny. But he himself is not particularly compelling, I will say. So why don't we stick him here? Unlife. So Unlife, I really like Unlife a lot. You can play as her in the third game if you get your other player character killed. But before that, she gets a lot of development in the story. She's one of the main characters that has like speaking roles most of the time in the scenes. And she's always presenting the cause for the greater good, it seems. Like, Unlife is a very, very virtuous person and is very angry at people who are not most of the time. She's the most vitriolically opposed to Rugga through the whole time you're dealing with him. And it's just good. It's just good that there's somebody with that strong of a sense of justice to maybe rein in the darker impulses of the rest of the caravan. And I really liked her take on being a strong woman in the first game. It was something along the lines of like, people call you a strong woman if you don't display emotion, like, essentially. If she were to cry, people would stop thinking that about her, even though her husband literally died like 2 days before that. And it's kind of like lampshading a larger criticism in like media in general, or even just tendencies in human beings, right? That, like, a lot of the times when women have empowerment arcs in pieces of media, pieces of fiction, it involves them shedding their emotional side. It involves them like repressing that and proceeding forward as like just a badass, essentially. Because they think of strength as like physical strength or like strength of character or decisiveness, maybe. But I don't know. When people say strong female characters, they mean strongly written, like well written, basically, right? Obviously, this is not what Unlife's talking about. She doesn't care about characters and stories at that point in time. But I think that being a criticism for her was, I found it very compelling. I found her arc overall to be pretty compelling. And the remorse that she feels at the end of the third game when my Alette died, it's heartbreaking. S tier. Eagle. I honestly think I have to put him in the Who category because I barely used him. He has a little crush on Alette, and that's kind of cute. Yeah, I didn't really get to know him, unfortunately. Alright, Mogan and Hogan are coming up next. Mogan is a very broken individual. He has a conversation with Rook in the first game, basically along the lines of like, this life that we're living, this running and fighting and dying and people all around us, people that we care about, and falling in battle or falling to starvation and that type of stuff. He loves that life. He needs the thrill of that thrill, that intensity, to even feel alive. And he tries to relate to Rook on that level. Like, I think I had my Rook kind of understand somewhat, like, on some level, the things that we're going through now are more exciting than the mundanity of like day-to-day life, right? But to actively enjoy it, like to actively pursue that lifestyle, is insane to me, and it's very interesting. My Mogan ended up getting killed by Bolverk when he tried to open the Belwar cart. But I wonder what his development would have looked like in the third game if that hadn't happened. Because I think there is a way to not kill him there. If you let him open the cart, I think you don't actually have to kill him. So I think I'm going to stick Mogan. Let's put him in B tier. Above Bersi, but below Gunolf. Now Hogan. Hogan is in many ways the opposite of Mogan, right? He's a family man. He'd rather not, honestly, be a part of this caravan of the endless procession of death and killing. But he understands there's no other choice, really. And eventually, it starts to get to him. He starts to find himself feeling the way his brother did about this lifestyle. And he has the option to retire at that point. I don't think that I got that conversation for whatever reason, but it is a thing that can happen for you. And you can let him retire, you can not. I honestly really wish that I had gotten that, because I think that it would have led to some more interesting development for him. To force him to stay after that, I wonder what that would have done to him as a character, you know? I'm gonna put him right next to his brother. I feel like they're about the same. Very different in personality-wise, but... Excuse me. Okay, moving right along, we got Ekkel. So Ekkel is kind of a bait and switch in a way, right? He's this raving madman, this violent thug, basically, that you deal with when you get to Frostfiller. But as the game goes on, if you choose to take him with you, you start to see a very, very different side of him. The conversation that he has with Rook, when Rook recruits him to the caravan, is honestly incredible. I was really, really impressed with the writing there. It was essentially, I don't remember exactly how it went, but essentially the gist was that Ekkel was saying something along the lines of like, I don't think you're the kind of man that would abandon all of my people just because you don't like me. Something like that. And to even hear that from him at that stage of the game was shocking, because I thought this guy was just like a beast, essentially. But then the game continues to go on, and he has more moments like that. And eventually, when the other shoe drops, he is your biggest asset. He kills so many of Onef's men. Because he's hated Onef for years, right? It's pretty clear that he has. So he finally gets the chance to take out his rage against the man who had done so much wrong to him. And he does. And it's awesome. I like that we had a conversation with him and Iver toward the end of the third game. And he was still hung up on, like, Rook's opinion of him, you know? Why is that, I wonder? Why is Ekkel so invested in Rook's opinion of him? I don't know, but I can tell you that Ekkel is S tier. S tier character. Now Onef. So, I really like the Onef twist and the consequences that it has for your party. I don't know that enough was done with him beforehand to make him like actually a great character. His implications in the caravan are very interesting and catastrophically bad in some cases, but overall, as a guy, he's pretty mid. I'm gonna put him in C tier. Now Nid. I really like Nid, actually. Her journey from just a mother of three to one of the most formidable archers in the world, probably, is really cool. And then there's a conversation she has with Alette in Banner Saga 2, where she feeds her the eggs and is like, I don't know, you can just see she has a very nurturing side to her as well, but she'll put an arrow in your fucking eyeball, man, from 200 meters away. So Nid is a lot of fun. She's very cool. I'm gonna put her in B tier, just above Wagner and Bercy. Moving on to Krummer. Now, Krummer. He's in a lot of ways, he's kind of an opposite of Yuban, right? They're both very old. They're the two oldest Varl in existence that we know of, anyway. And Krummer is Varl to the teeth. He's to a T. What the fuck? He's Varl to a T. Excuse me. Because he's all about fighting and drinking and slaughtering Dredge, and he goes off on his own several times to do that, which can end up in him getting killed. But he's just mad with that battle lust and so old that I don't think he really cares if he dies anymore. And that's interesting. That's an interesting place to be at. But overall, I don't know. He has a lot of stories that he like vaguely describes to you, but then never actually tells you, which is kind of funny. I think I'm gonna stick Krummer in C tier. Now, Fasolt. I really like Fasolt. Not as a person, but as a character. He's an extreme bigot against humans. I wonder, actually, it would be really interesting to see if that's changed by the decision that you make at Undertoft or not. Because I destroyed the bridge, which made him hate my caravan, right? But what if I hadn't? What if I had chosen to just leave instead? I wonder how Fasolt would have felt about us after that. But I think when you have these races of people, there's like different, well, not even races, species, different species of people. It's important to have characters like that are assholes about it. And I like the influence that he can have on Hakon as well, because you can see Hakon being corrupted right before your very eyes. When he says, "Of our bones, the hills," wait, that is how the saying goes, right? Let me just check. Yes, it is. Okay. when Fasolt hits Hakon with the "Of our bones, the hills," and Hakon repeats it, I was screaming in my head because I was like, no, I can see the like corruption of Hakon, and yeah. So I'm gonna stick him in A tier, just below Hakon. Moving on to Gris, the zombie man in my games, because he died at least once in story and then kept coming back for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if there's some bug in the games or like if he has 9 lives like a cat. I don't understand. But he's going F tier just for that. Because I really like reactivity in my games and he broke my sense of immersion, so fuck him. Eyvind. I've seen a lot of people that don't like Eyvind. And I think a lot of that has to do with him making bad decisions. People make bad decisions in real life, but for some reason a lot of characters seem to get more flack for doing stupid things. This was a thing in like Fire Emblem Echoes as well, with Celica when she decided to like go along with the Dark Mage's plan. What was his name, like Jedha or something? And I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate the broader context. Like with Eyvind, think about what his story arc is. So his lover dies, he uses the power of the Black Sun to resurrect her, which starts the end of the world. So then the only way to resolve that is to imprison his lover forever in the sun. And yeah. And so when you finally get there, is it really hard to understand that he's hesitant to do that? Luckily, I had made the correct decisions to talk him down from pursuing a different path. But I don't know. I feel like that's relatable. Not only is Juno his lover, she's the only person who is able and willing to keep his brain from exploding, literally. Like, they talk about how Eyvind's power is, like, literally overflowing, and it, like, might, like, kill him and, like, drives him insane sometimes. And Juno is the only person who can even handle that with her magic. And so, Eyvind might be fucked after the events of Banner Saga 3, actually, because what is he gonna do? All the other Menders are forbidden from meddling in his mind. But anyway, Eyvind is S tier. I love Eyvind. Or Eyvind. I think it's actually Eyvind, but I've been calling him Eyvind for, like, the whole, like, first 95% of the game, so. Okay, Jorinder. I really like Jorinder's, like, take on the Varl. He understands that the Varl, because they can't reproduce, are going to die out eventually. And so that's why he's so attached to keeping the bridge, because it's like a signifier of the Varl themselves, like that this enormous bridge that they wouldn't be capable of constructing in their current form even exists is a landmark. It signifies the existence of their species. So that's really important to him. But he is eventually willing to compromise if you take the correct path to make that happen. Unfortunately, I didn't, and so he got really pissed at me. I'm gonna put him in B tier, at the top of B tier, above Gunnulf. Now Juno. You know, I really like how the game kept me guessing what Juno's actual motivations were the whole time. Because she does so many things that are fucked up. Like, she mind controls your entire caravan at points. And I guess you learn ultimately that she was doing that to save the world, but it doesn't make it feel any less creepy and invasive, right? Like, I don't know. She does a lot of stuff like that, and she never really explains herself until you basically force her to. Ollie holds an axe to her throat, and Iver makes her tell everybody what's happening. And she's just very cryptic in that way. I don't think I'm gonna put her in S tier. I think I'm gonna put her in A tier. Above Fessel, but below Hakon. Okay, the Serpent. I fucking love the Serpent. I love any enemy in a game that is like cosmic horror levels of antagonism. Like, the Serpent is enormous. It bursts out of the world from the black sun, which it turns out was its egg, and just like causes earthquakes everywhere. But what's interesting about the Serpent is that it's not really like wrathful or anything like that. It was created to do this. It's just trying to fulfill its purpose. There's no like anger or rage or anything except at Juno, who fucked the whole thing up and made it hatch in half the time it was supposed to. So I love the Serpent. The Serpent is S tier. Gudmundur. Really don't remember a lot about his personality or story. I'm gonna put him in D tier because I don't remember much. Alright, Sigbjorn. Sigbjorn is great. The conversation when you find him is probably the best showing of his, unfortunately. There's not much beyond that. But it's really funny. And it's a much needed moment of levity too, because you're toward the end of the game at that point and so much bad shit has happened to you that you really kind of need a smashed, fully drunken Varl to haphazardly wave his sword about and slur all over the place. It's great. Is he better than Gunnulf? I think he's about the same. Bolverk. I wonder why Bolverk couldn't be mind controlled. They never explained that. Why didn't Juno's magic work on him? Was he already being possessed by Belor at that point, or was it something else? What? Wait, maybe it was. Maybe he was being possessed already, because Juno doesn't meet him until after Belor has been, not killed, I guess, but incapacitated. But I like the contrast between Bolverk and anyone else you get to play as, because Bolverk is a bloodthirsty madman, and it's a lot of fun to play him that way. That's how Mogan ended up dying. You can actually kill Sigbjorn that way too. Luckily I didn't, but you can. Apparently another aspect of him that I don't think was mentioned in the game when I was playing is that he has like crazy beliefs about himself. The Varl are all like a hybrid of humans and Yoxes. That's why they have the horns, that's why they're like hairy and shit. But he believes that he's part polar bear instead. And to the extent that he broke off his own horns and turned them into axe handles for his axes. And wears a polar bear skin because he believes that he's half polar bear. It's crazy. I don't think he's S tier. I think he's A tier. Possibly the best A tier. Folka. I didn't like Folka at first. She ended up growing on me a lot, though. One of the things I really liked about her is that everyone else seemed to have a sense of apprehension when talking to Bolverk, but she would just be blunt and call him out. Because they were very close, right? Bolverk essentially raised her. Which makes it all the more tragic when he kills her in the third game. Or wait, no, that's the end of the second game, excuse me. But... Or wait, is it? I think it's the third game? I don't know, it doesn't matter. But yeah, and the game does such a good job of getting you to trust her intuition up to that point. Like, every time she gives you advice before then, it's right. It turns out to be the correct thing to do. Because she's an experienced commander and she knows what she's talking about. But then, when it comes to the thing that she possibly should know the best, which is Bolverk, the man who raised her and she's been fighting with for like 20 years now, probably. She doesn't know. She doesn't know any better. She gets killed by him because she's too trusting. It's really good. I love it. She's just below Bolverk on A tier. At least for now. This guy sucks, he's F tier. Nah, actually, he's kind of fun. It was fun doing the accent for him. I made him like a fucking British street rat. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if your mic's on. Hang on. Sorry. Because like, if I have to do it later, I'll probably forget, so... Okay. I actually don't remember what that guy's name is. He's just the trainer. Like, he's nothing. But they still took time to give him a personality anyway. I'll put him in C tier. Fuck it. Alright, Aleo. I didn't like Aleo at first, actually. I was, like, kind of like, who's this new guy? Why is he here? I already have Ivan. I don't even need him. Or, not Ivan, but, Eirik. But then he reads that poem at the end of the third game, and it's literally just the titles of every single chapter up to that point, and it was like, that was a real fucking moment. I got chills from that, actually. And he's also just kind of a good guy. Like, the conversations that he has with Udlife and Alette are always very reassuring and very understanding. He's a very empathetic guy as well, and he's a family man. It's pretty cool. He's a very wholesome individual, actually, which is rare in this series. I'm gonna put him in A tier, below Juno, above Vesselt. Trigvi. Man, you really made the right choice for voicing that guy with the surfer thing, man.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
That was gold, honestly. I like Trigvi a lot. I wish I had gotten him in the first game. I didn't even know that you could, but I wish I had gotten to have more conversations with him because every single one was nonsensical and hilarious. But that's kind of all he's got. Actually, no, it's not. In the third game, he has a fucking existential crisis, and it's depressing. So yeah, he's actually a lot deeper than that. Let me put him in A tier. Bach. I don't give a shit about Bach. He thinks his spear is a person. He talks to it. It sucks. He's like Trigby, but like not a fun kind of insane. Ollie. Yeah, Ollie's an alcoholic. I don't know. Ollie's pretty underwhelming, ultimately. Like, I didn't think much of him at all. Yeah, I'm gonna stick him in D tier too. Spar. I didn't like Spar as a character at first, but I think that's just because he was taking up a combat slot in my party, and I didn't like using him in combat because he really grew on me as well. Like, he ends up being like the nicest to Iver out of any of the Ravens, because everyone else kind of hates him. And Spar, like, he says something about how like it's you know, common courtesy to give guests a gift and shit like that, and it's like, hey, Spar, you know that, like, I don't know, it's not exactly the situation we're in. Guests of the caravan in the underworld. Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, I like Spar, but I don't love him. I'll put him in C tier. But a little bit more up there, though. He's definitely more interesting than Eirik, at least. Actually, you know what? He made me laugh a few times, too. He gave Iver that old boar horn, supposedly because it wasn't getting him laid anymore. That's what he said. I'm gonna put him in B tier. Above Wagner and Bercy. Above Nid, too. Below Mogan and Hogan. Dagger. The best thing about him was the way he died. He never talks, he has like no personality essentially, and if you decide to spare him, he betrays you again. This guy is dog shit, he's F tier. On the contrary, on the other hand, Rugga. I love Rugga. I hate him as a person, but as an antagonist, he's perfect. He is so intertwined with every system of power you want to engage with that you can't kill him whenever you want to. You really have to be careful about how you deal with him because... Well, I'm not sure, actually, if you can kill him at the point with the land bridge. But if you do there, you end up killing all of his followers, too, who are not, you know, they don't really deserve it. If you kill him at the gates of Arborong, all the clans that are loyal to him are going to turn on you there. And then if you kill him once you get inside Arborong and he's taken prisoner, he said that his men are dedicated to causing as much havoc as possible in the event of his death. There's no clean way to kill him at any point of the game. And he knows it, and he plays it up so much. And then the crown jewel, the final moment where it happens, he makes you go out and invite the Dredge into the city personally. And ironically enough, the Dredge don't kill you. Some people inside the city do. But that's what gets the main character killed, Rugga. Awesome antagonist. Is he better than Ivan's? No, I don't think so. He's better than Luden, though. Ditch. You know, I would have... Jesus Christ. I came up with the idea to do this tier list before I finished the third game, and I was thinking I was going to rank Ditch very low. But then he has that that interaction with Iver where he's like, yeah, you know, everybody thinks of me as the quiet guy, and then he just rambles on for like 10 minutes straight about random bullshit. It's good. It's really good. I kind of relate. And I'm going to put him in C tier. Like high C tier? No, I'll put bottom B. That feels fair. Okay, Zephyr. I like how Zephyr is just endlessly determined. She never loses hope, even despite not having faith in Juno and Ivan to save the day. She continues to hold the defenses of Arborong, even when it keeps falling back deeper and deeper into the city, further back to the walls. She just never really gives up, and that's admirable, I think. She also drains the life force from her pupil to counterspell a Dredge, which is pretty fucked up. But also he volunteered, so... I don't know. Zephyr... I think Zephyr's in B tier too. Just below Spar. Nichols. I really like Nichols. I like that he... Obviously, as a Mender, he knew the potential for Zephyr to have to sacrifice him to use some really powerful spell was there. But he doesn't... I don't know. Even faced with that situation, knowing that it could be coming, I feel like there would be a lot more fight in people. He just understands what's necessary, what's required of him. And then he's honored by the Ravens afterwards, if you decide to make Bulwark nice enough to do that, which I did, because I think that his bravery would have struck a chord in Bulwark, if nothing else. Even if he thought he was annoying to begin with. I'm going to put him right next to Zephyr. No, you know what? I'm going to put him in A tier. I think he deserves that. Alright, Roek. There's basically nothing to him. I barely even had any interactions with him, actually. Like, he's the clan leader of the Horseborn, but he doesn't say much, ever. D tier. Skathak. I like Skathak a lot. I didn't know he was a trader, actually. Like a merchant. I didn't know that about him until it was an option to, like, use his negotiation expertise to try to talk to people and stuff. It was interesting. Also, apparently the Horseborn have very, very short lifespans, because I found out on the wiki that Roek is 10 years old. Yeah, so... But yeah, Skathak is a pretty cool guy. Unfortunately, there's not a lot to him because there's that language barrier there, but once... actually, you know what? Once you have Ubin and Ubin can translate for you, Skathak gets a lot more interesting because he's able to speak in full sentences. It's too bad I don't remember much of what he said, though. I'm gonna put him in B tier tentatively for now. Maybe he'll be better if I make another one of these someday. Okay, Deirdre. She was basically a nothing character, except she had that one, like, psycho line where she was like, yeah, maybe we should just start sacrificing people in the caravan to save food. And just... She didn't have much to say aside from that. That's pretty much her one opinion that I found out about. It makes it more interesting than Roek, though. I'm gonna put her in C tier. Canary. Canary really pissed me off. I think she might be like a psychopath, actually. Like an actual one. Like, diagnosable. Because when I asked her, hey, did you raid this city and kill a bunch of people? She just was like, yeah, we did that shit. Like, not only is she not thinking about, like, the like, any sort of, like, remorse or consequences, she's also just not even, like, thinking about what admitting that is going to cause. Like, I don't know. I don't know. You could have lied. You really could have lied. D tier. I don't know who that is. Oh wait, that's the lady who I think she, like, baits you. She says she needs help and then they end up attacking you. Not really much to her though. I'm just gonna put her in Who, because I think there's actually a way to get her to join your caravan if you don't have the Horseborn with you, maybe. So, alright, Spinegrinder the Bear. Edgelord name. I really thought Eric had better taste. Very cute. Always comes into the battleground backwards, which is funny. I mean, it's a bear, though, so no personality to speak of. I'm going to add a bear tier. Oh, whoops. Because I don't think the bear deserves to be ranked lowly just because it's a bear. That's not the bear's fault.
It's not the bear's fault. It's a bear.
That's right. You didn't choose to be born a bear. I guess I'll stick this one there, too. I didn't meet this bear, though. I have no idea what the fuck is up with that bear. I'll put it here. This guy. I don't remember much about him except his face bothers me. I think he's in that village that you, like, get this weird sense that you shouldn't stay there. I'm pretty sure that's who that is. I wonder what would have happened if I did, though. I don't know. Whatever. I'll put him in who, just because I barely interacted with him. Petrus. Yo, you did, like, the clone trooper voice for him?
Yeah.
And that actually fit really well, I think. I tried to do it, and I wasn't as good at it, but...
I thought it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Captain of the Guard.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. It's just really funny how the accents all ended up working out because, like, these two are from the same place, and, like, he's Australian, I did him British. I did, like, Ludin, like, super posh British, even though he's his son, and, like, I don't know. It was just all over the place. It was a lot of fun. Okay, Petrus. Man, I really like... Petrus gets so fucking pissed off at Rugga after he, like, betrays you for, like, the 4th time or 5th time or whatever, that he beats him up so badly that he fucking is unconscious for, like, several days. That's good. I like how he's essentially sent out by Maynolf to negotiate with you at a certain point. He seems like he kind of understands the position you're in. Like, you've been put in a really shitty position by the situation, and it wasn't fully your choice to turn on the king. It's just kind of what led to that point. You wanted the people outside the gates to get in, and the king was not willing to do that. So what do you do at that point? It seems like Petrus understands that, and he doesn't hate you for that, you know? So I'm gonna put him in B tier. I wish there were more development for him, honestly. And I like how he instantly becomes friends with Gudmundur because they're both, like, captains of the guard. That was kind of funny. King Maynolf. I had been looking forward to meeting the king since I met Ludin, because I was curious what sort of person his father would be. And, you know, actually you can kind of see how Ludin became the way that he is, because this king is a fucking childish, spiteful asshole. It turns out the reason he doesn't want to let all those people into the city is just because of Rugga. Because Rugga tried to overthrow him at one point. And because Rugga's leading them, he's not about it. That whole conflict happened because this guy is a dickhead, a stubborn-ass dickhead. And I love that, honestly. His vendetta just goes so deep that he's like, no, I will forsake half of my people for the sake of fucking this guy over. I'm gonna put him in A tier. Right there. Alfrun. Oh boy, Alfrun. You know, she, like all the other Menders that we meet, is very cryptic and mysterious, and it's kind of hard to figure out what her actual intentions are too. But we know that she's opposed to Juno and Ivan. She hates them and loves the Dredge. She's very good friends with the Dredge, right? It's so different from any character that we've encountered before. She lives amongst the Dredge and befriends them. And then she, at the very end of the 3rd game, is like, hey, I don't know what these other Menders are about, but I can do this ritual too. If you want to kill Ivan, like, I can handle this for you. I didn't end up doing that because I liked Ivan and I trusted him to eventually do the right thing, but I'm very curious to see what happens if you take her up on that. I think that in another playthrough, I'd be able to find out a lot more about her and end up liking her more, but I do like her quite a bit already. I'm going to put her in B tier. Next is Effort. That feels right to me. Okay, Kibby the Dredge. I think we can safely slot most of the Dredge into the lower tiers because they literally can't speak our language and we don't find out anything about them, pretty much. They're not even characters, really. I wish that we could find out more about them, but we really can't. So Kibby goes in F. I'll stick Apostate there too while I'm at it. And Castaway as well. Sorry to say, but it's the truth. Drusy, the Mender. I think that actually this guy is barely in the games. He's in it for like one scene. They managed to make me feel pretty bad for him in that one scene just by the art direction alone. Because he's getting attacked by people he considered like allies at one point, and they steal shit from him and destroy his tower, and it's kind of it's sad. Yeah. But he's not ultimately that interesting. I'm gonna stick him there. Oh boy, I forget what her name is. Karen. She's essentially a Karen of the Banner Saga universe. Like, literally. You find her in a Godstone in the Inner Earth. And it's like the Dredge Godstone. There's a whole group of women, actually, with her, and she tells you that, oh, this Dredge was attacking us, and for no reason. And then you dig a little bit deeper to find out she actually instigated the whole thing, and it's just hate. Jesus Christ. You remember to breathe between sentences. She instigated the whole thing. Her group is responsible for this conflict. The Dredge was just trying to take shelter, and so were they, but they decided, no, you can't take shelter here with us. So yeah, literally just a Karen. It's great. I love it. Beats here. Bastion. He is the one exception to the Dredge being boring blank slates, because even though he can't speak the language either, he has a lot more personality that's gleaned through like subtle stage direction type stuff in the text of the game. Like, he's the one who carries Alette's body back to the city if she dies. He's the one who protects the body from anyone trying to fuck with it. So you can tell that he understands what's going on there. Like, Alette was brokering a peace deal for his people, and he appreciates that. So he's going to respect her body. And that, like, one little detail I think puts him above the rest of the Dredge, at least. And Canary, too, because fuck Canary. Okay, this is the last character that I actually met, aside from the protagonists. This is Alette's mother, Rook's wife. She's barely in the game, but everything that she says is extremely impactful. And you really just don't learn much about her, unfortunately. I think that she has to go in the Who tier, which says nothing about how impactful the moments of the story that she's in are, because they are really... Well, it made me cry. I put a video out about it. You people saw. Okay, I don't know who any of these guys are. That's Iver again, but I'm not going to rank him again. That's Luden again, but yeah, same deal. Ranking Rook and Alette, I think... Their actions are so determined by what you choose to do that I don't know if that would even be fair. No, I don't think it would be. So I guess I'm done. Everybody else goes in the Who category. Well, that's Luden. So yeah, there you have it. Oh, wait, should I try? Let me try to order him just a little bit, though. Is Ubin really the best character? Yeah, I think he is. Serpent... I'm gonna keep the Serpent at the bottom of S tier, because, like, you know. Okay, Bulgak is at the top of A. No, that feels right to me, too. Ivan and Iver. I think Iver deserves to be second best. His remorse and his whole journey throughout the whole thing, including his, like, the complete lack of will to live, trying to, like, sacrifice himself to Belor, essentially, to being the guy who saves the world, basically. It's pretty cool. And I think that's good placement. I think everyone else is pretty well placed already. You're under at the top of B. No, I think that fits. Alright. So there's the tier list. We did it.